Adrenaline. Now you're all probably going to think we've experienced a lot of that in this class. Let me tell you what Webster's College Dictionary says about adrenaline. It says, see epinephrine, a hormone secreted by the adrenal medulla upon stimulation by the central nervous system in response to stress, anger, or fear, and acting to increase heart rate, blood pressure, cardiac output, and carbohydrate metabolism. This is speech 7. Most of you probably don't know that I am an adrenaline junkie. Therefore, you probably think I get my kicks getting up in public and speaking. I didn't to start with. Okay, this is not working. Guess we're going to get it the old-fashioned way. Panic plunge. You might think panic plunge was that first time you got up in Dr. Phil's class to speak, but that's not the case. Panic plunge is a 140-foot ride, 140-foot tall ride at Silverwood Park in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Just one of the ways I love to get my adrenaline rush. You get in this contraption and it slowly lifts you up in the air, and as you're going higher and higher, that adrenaline starts kicking in and you start getting the butterfly feeling. Get you to the top and approximately 50 miles an hour in 120 feet. The last 20 feet it slows you down to stop at the bottom. Another way I get my adrenaline rush is I used to race this exotic sports car with a buddy of mine. We've raced at Seattle International Raceway, raced at Portland International. In April of 2003, we ran the Silver State Classic in Nevada in this car. I legally got my need for speed. 165 miles an hour is a blast on an open highway. Another way is aftershock. I love roller coasters. This by far is my favorite roller coaster as of recent. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Explain, I brought a friend in to demonstrate. You get in the car on this thing and you sit down and this contraption comes over you and it's covered with foam padding and it locks you in, and then the floor drops out from under your feet. Then the car starts up this side of the tower, and at which point you're hanging in the air like this, straight down, 190 feet in the air. I was sitting there on the very outside in the very first seat, and I was looking down at my wife, and she, oops, sorry, Panda. She was about that big. That's what it's like. They let you go, they drop you. You come down, you go through an inverted loop, you go through a corkscrew, you go back around, you come over to this side, you do the exact same thing and go back up the other side. I want to read you their little notice they have on the internet for aftershock.
Oh, a warning?
No, it's not a warning. Aftershock is here, the metal monster that now dominates the skies over Silverwood. This 191-foot tall beast is really two thrills in one, because not only does it take you forwards through a cobra roll, an inverted loop at over 65 miles an hour, but backwards as well. You get up to the other side and it does it in reverse. Once you board, the cars will slowly move backwards up the starting tower until you're staring straight at the ground at nearly 190 feet in the air. Then gravity will take over and pull you 177 feet straight down as you reach speeds of 65 miles per hour. You'll twist and turn through mind-blowing loops and rolls until you reach the second tower. This time you'll be looking straight up at the sky as the coaster comes to a stop, only to release you and send you barreling through the whole thing backwards.
Oh.
I loved it. My oldest son and I rode that thing so many times that we closed the park. That was the last ride we rode that night. Here's the thing about roller coaster riding, especially aftershock. The first time you get on that thing, your knees are shaking because you stood there and you've watched it. Your heart's racing as it starts to take you up, and you're sitting there looking down at the ground. The adrenaline is just pumping through you, and you're just twitching. I mean, and then the rush of going down. It's a lot like public speaking. The first time you get up in front of somebody public speaking, your body sometimes does the exact same thing. Well, I rode Aftershock enough times to the point where I could get on that ride without the adrenaline rush, without the heart racing. I never did get past that drop though. When it first takes off, you get a thrill. But like public speaking, or like Aftershock, public speaking got easier and easier every time I did it. And my hope is that all of you someday will get to that point too, where you no longer get an adrenaline rush. Today I'm going to share with you 3 things from my portfolio. The first is going to be reviewing my 6 speeches. Then I'm going to share with you some of my family humor. Being older and married 41 years, I've got a lot of it. And I'm going to share with you some of my reading. So, to start with, speech 1, I introduced you to my son, Nathan. Which, speaking of portfolios, let me go back to this. In building business success, Dr. Phil Vendetti says, I require students to produce these portfolios for 2 reasons. First, the process provides them all with an enduring record of what they did and what they learned in our study together. Second, it offers prospective employers tangible evidence of the student's skills and aptitudes as communicators. So in speech 1, I introduced you to Nathan. I told you about his antics and how he gave me gray hair, white hair, bald spot. And I ended it telling you that my wish came true and Nathan got a son just like him, Keegan. My second speech was my demonstration in which I brought in probably more supplies than anybody's ever brought in. Has anybody ever brought a fender into your class, Dr. Phil? They have now. Hopefully you remember how to shine shinier and shiniest your car for any occasion. I don't know if that was proper English or not. The one thing I found from speech 2 is when you go out and interview somebody, it can pay dividends for everybody in the class because he loaded me up with all them extras that I was able to pass out.